And I want you to know that in the fall of 1992, you saw some of the story on the video. Myself and the other co-founders, we got together at a point in time in our lives where we were sick and tired of being sick and tired. Any of you ever there before in your lives? Where you try different things and fail, you try some other things and you fail, and you wonder whether or not you're really going to do the things and be as big as you once dreamt, like you dreamt possibly in high school or in college, whatever the case may be. Well, that was us in the fall of 1992. In fact, one of the unique things about ACN is that myself, Robert Stevanovsky, Mike and Tony Kupas, we did not know each other for 3 months before we started ACN. We got together and we got introduced by a lady by the name of Debbie Davis, who's sitting in the front row. And Debbie introduced us because she knew me through some relationships. She knew Mike and Tony through relationships. I knew Robert through some relationships. But she introduced us because we were all involved with other companies that did not work out so well for us. In fact, to be quite frank with you, I had such a bad taste in my mouth in 1991 when I left this industry, because I spent 9.5 years of my life with one company. Then the rug got pulled off from underneath me. And so in 1991, I wanted nothing to do with direct selling. In fact, you couldn't have paid me to come to a meeting such as this. You really couldn't have. I wanted nothing to do with it. I took about 1.5 years off. And then when we got introduced through Debbie in the fall of 1992, we all had different experiences, different backgrounds, and we got together and we said, look, we know that the industry is good. We know that it works, but it only works in the right environment with the right people and with the right compensation plan with the right services. All those components had to be in place. And so we went on a search, and we did our due diligence on many other companies in the fall of 1992, but there was not one other company that we could put our faith and trust in. Not one. And that's when we got the crazy idea, as you heard on the video, of starting our own company. And we literally put ACN together in a 3-month window of time, in October, November, and December of 1992. And we kicked the company off in January of 1993. And I'm telling you, you talk about a company that had primitive beginnings. You have no idea. In fact, I can tell you this, the majority of you would not have joined ACN with the way that ACN was. We had our entire home office was in a 1,500 square foot office space. That was it. We had a distribution center where we passed out kits back then. It was in a closet. Our original opportunity videos we used to mail out these big VHS videos. You remember those? We used to mail out VHS videos, and the very first one that we had reproduced, we didn't know this at the time, but we would go do presentations in people's homes in the beginning, and we would put this video in the VHS port, the VCR. I even forgot the name of it. The VCR. VHS port. Where in the heck did that come from? We put it in the VCR. And on the first 30 seconds of the original videos was Woody Woodpecker. They had reproduced our videos on old VHS tapes. I'm telling you folks, the early stages of our company were very, very difficult. In fact, I do have to tell you that there were some times where we didn't know whether or not we would operate one more day. But here's what I can tell you. When we were faced with those obstacles, when those situations were at hand, within 24 to 48 hours of a door totally being closed, not knowing whether or not we're going to make payroll, not knowing whether or not we can operate the next day, there was a window or another door that was open within 24 to 48 hours, and we were off and running again. And here's what I want you to know. This is the purpose of me to tell you this story, is that you are looking at one of the most blessed companies that you will ever lay your eyes on. It's amazing what happened over the last 30 years. It's amazing how we began. I think about our very first service was long distance phone service. Any of you remember long distance phone service? Yeah, remember when making a long distance call was a big deal? I remember I grew up in the inner city of Detroit. I remember trying to make a long distance call. It was a big deal. When my brother was in the service and he called, it was like a family event. Everybody huddled over the phone just to hear the communication. Long distance was a big deal. But I also lived in a household where we were very, very cautious about how much money you spend. Like in my house, if you had the refrigerator open too long and you're looking for some food, my dad would come in there, "Hey, what are you doing? Shopping? Shut the door." Remember that? Turn the lights off when you leave a room. Remember all that? Well, long distance was part of that era. And let me tell you what happened. We carved a niche in the long distance business. This is how ACN began. And all the long distance companies out there, they were selling long distance phone service and charging by the full minute, which means if you made a phone call and your phone call lasted 1 minute and 10 seconds, you got charged 2 minutes. That's the way they rounded up. That was their billing. We carved the niche, and here's what we said through our partner LCI. We said, why don't we charge in 6-second increments as opposed to full minute increments? So that if somebody makes a call for a minute 10, we'll charge them for a minute 12 instead of 2 minutes. It was ingenious. And let me tell you what happened. LCI was a publicly traded company. We went there with the intentions of becoming their marketing arm to acquire long-distance customers with that business model in mind. And within a very few years, I think it was 3 or 4 years, we were doing over $300 million of revenue for that company. And the average phone bill, listen, the average phone bill of long distance at the time was about $15 a month. In fact, that's the only revenue that we could get per household was $15 a month. And we did over $300 million of revenue for that one company. And the top 3 companies back then were AT&T, MCI, and Sprint. And every time that we switched a customer from one of those companies, they would send a check out to those customers. And if those customers endorsed the back of the check, what they were in essence doing was given permission for one of those 3 companies to switch them back to their original service. Do you know how often that happened? 100% of the time. So we had to expend a lot of time and energy and effort to acquire the customer. We also had to expend the exact same amount of resources to retain the customer. The odds were against us. There were over 600 companies at the time competing for long-distance phone service. And yet, here's what happened. Within our first 5 years of being in business, we were listed on the Inc. 500 list as the 22nd fastest growing company on that list in 1998. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. In fact, I remember my very first residual income check. Now think about this. Here's the scenario. This is the scenario. We throw everything we have at ACN to start it. Right? I'm married. Robert's married. Robert don't have kids yet, but I got 3 babies at home. Autumn was like, let's see, this was 1993. Autumn was 4 years old. Marina, my youngest, was still in diapers. Manny was getting around okay. But I remember Sherry at the time, my wife, still my wife, 42 years later, thank you. I remember Sherry clipping coupons for diapers. I remember those days. And I remember my very first residual income check was in April of 1993. And I opened it up, and it was for $2 and change. I'll never forget it. I wish I would have kept it, but I needed the money. I cashed it. I brought it home. I brought the check home. And I said, Sherry, here, this is our first residual income check. She opens the envelope. And she looks at me like I got 3 heads. I said, babe, don't you know what this means? She goes, yeah, I know what it means. It means we can't buy diapers this week. That's what it means. No, I said, let me tell you what this means. This means that we recruited people to go build a company within the company, to go out and acquire customers. Those customers use the service. They get billed by LCI. LCI gives us a commission check. We pay out a commission, a residual commission based on the compensation plan. This is our very first check. Do you know what this says? This proves that the system works. And I said, this is the very beginning. This is the very beginning of something that is just spectacular. And so those were the primitive days. Those are the things, those are the hurdles that we had to overcome. And if I had enough time, I could tell you hundreds of other stories of how we began. But I want you to know that today is totally a different day for ACN. Today it's so much different. It's not just one service. It's not just one state. It's not just one country. We have a whole menu of services in multiple countries, in multiple areas of the world, that we're giving an opportunity for people that is just incredible. Services, listen, services that people need, they want, they use every day, and they pay for every month, and you get paid on vital services that people can't do without. That's a dream come true. And that ultimately creates revenue for ACN, which in turn creates residual income for you and your family, where you get paid month after month, year after year, for as long as those customers remain on the services. It gets deposited into your account whether you get up and do something or not. Is that incredible? I love the system of ACN. And today we're doing hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue in the areas that we're represented in. But as much as we've done, after 30 years of being in business, we still have barely scratched the surface of what is possible for us to go after. In fact, we have gone after less than 1% market penetration with any service in any country that we are currently doing business in. Is there an opportunity left, yes or no? Here's what we're dealing with. Listen, the larger that we get, the larger that the marketplace gets at the exact same time. We will never keep up. Those are the industries that we're in today. And so there's more opportunity today. Why? Because we're more relevant than we've ever been. I'm confident, like I said on the video, that we will do more business in the next 3 years than we did in the last 10 years because of the positioning and the timing that we're in right now. Our best days are ahead of us. And I believe that because there's a number of reasons why. Number one, we have leadership today that I have never seen in business. We have some of the greatest leaders in all of business today. How many of you would agree with that? people that are seasoned, people that care about other people, people that lead from the front, people that still want it for you, and they continue to do the things that are necessary to help you to build your company within a company. Not only do we have great leadership, but we have great executives at ACN. We have great employees of ACN. People that set the foundation in place where you don't have to worry about a thing. The only thing you got to do is go talk to some people. Is that okay? So the first thing is we have great leadership inside and outside of the company. The second thing as to why I believe our best days are ahead of us and not behind us is because we continue to keep our eyes open for other opportunities in regards to services that we're able to provide. And just, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, we came out with 2 wonderful services called Truvy Lifestyle. Are you excited about Truvy? Anybody in here? To be able to provide discounted travel when people are more apt to be traveling today. And then Impact Health Share. Are you excited about Impact Health Share? To provide health sharing opportunities for families to literally save them hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars a month by being a part of Impact Health Share. I believe with these 2 services alone, listen, just these 2 services alone, that ACN can be a multi-billion-dollar company if you just do those 2 things, let alone the rest of the menu of services that we have. The third reason why I believe that our best days are ahead of us is because we are built on a very strong foundation. And I want you to know, you brand new folks that are here for the very first time, I want you to know that you're part of a very principled company. Not perfect. We'll make mistakes every single day. I'm probably making a mistake right now as I'm talking to you. But we're principled. And I want you to know, in a time where the world seems like it's upside down, where everything is backwards, where right is wrong, and wrong is right, and nobody knows the right thing to say or right thing to do, I want you to know that you're with a company that stands firm. You're with a company that stands for something, like I said on the video, and we're proud of that fact. And we're not going to compromise who we are or what we stand for. And I really do wish, and sometimes maybe we'll do a leadership session another time, where I can tell you stories about over the last 30 years that things have come up against us, and we had to make some difficult choices and difficult decisions when it was not even in our best interest sometimes at the time. But we made them. And I believe that's one of the reasons why we're here 30 years later, because we will not compromise who we are and what we're doing and who we're doing it for. And here's the other thing that's coming into play. It's like the perfect storm for ACN in 2023 as to why our best days are ahead of us and not behind us is because of the economy. I mean, we've all been hit with inflation, high interest rates, things have come against us like we didn't even expect. Mortgage rates are high. All the things that are coming against us financially as people. And we're in a position now to offer an opportunity that gives people more discretionary income on a part-time basis, no risk, very little money involved. This is something that everyone should want to take a look at. Would you agree with that? So all those things are coming into play. I said on the video that 2023 is just like what? 2009. And some of you weren't around back then, but 2009 to 2020 was our greatest run that we've ever had in our company's history. I see 2023 as reminiscent of 2009. That's why I believe our best days are ahead of us and not behind us. Everything is coming into play. So is our future bright? Yes or no? Is there opportunity left? Yes or no? So there should be no question in your minds, those of you that are brand new here, of whether or not there's an opportunity. There should be no question in your mind of whether or not the future is bright. Maybe the only question that's going through your mind at this juncture, since you're just starting, is, can I do this? Can you do what's required of you to become a success story at ACN, whatever that definition of success is to you? And I'm here to tell you today on this Friday afternoon, yes, you can do this. You can. And the reason why I'm telling you that is this. I happen to know all of the leaders at ACN. I know all of the senior vice presidents. I know our platinum senior vice president, Presley and Jeannie Swaggerty. Where you at, Presley and Jeannie? You around? Yeah, I don't know where you're at. I know you're here. Yeah, you're there. Okay, good. And we have one platinum SVP because we just came out with the position, and Presley and Jeannie are the first ones. Isn't that great? So I know all the SVPs, platinum SVP. I know all of the RVPs. I know all of the gold RVPs, platinum RVPs. I happen to know all the co-founders. And let me tell you about every single one of those groups of people. There's not one person that I can think of in all of those groups, and these are our top leaders and co-founders. There's not one person that I can think of that possesses superstar talent. Not one. See, we all had to grow into what we're doing today. 30 years ago, we didn't look like this. 30 years ago, none of us talked like this. I guarantee you 30 years ago, none of us dressed like this. We had to grow into what we are now doing. And guess what? You're going to have to do the very same thing. But here's what they did. They plugged into a support system that we created 30 years ago. And they did some things that most people are not willing to do, which is the reason why they're at the top of their game. Because you can have a wonderful opportunity, but if you don't do anything with it, what does it matter? Does that make sense to you? So I thought about there's four things, just four things, that separate us and the leadership from all of you that are brand new here today. And I want you to know what these four things are. The first three things are up to you. The last one is on us. So can I talk to you about those four things? The first thing is you have to make a commitment to give ACN ample time for it to work for you. And the thing that I want you to know is we are not Amazon Prime. Your success is not going to be delivered to you in 2 days or this afternoon. No. Everything worthwhile takes what? Takes time. If you want a great meal, does it what? Takes time. You want a great friendship? It takes time. Great relationships take time. If you want to build a big business, what happens? It takes time. You have to give it enough time. I want to encourage you. Again, I'm talking to the brand new people. If you are involved with ACN right now, and you said one of two things, or maybe both, possibly, I'm just going to try this thing, and if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to what I've always done, or I'm going to give ACN 6 months and see what happens. Here's my promise to you. You will always go back to doing what you did before you came here. So you have to make a commitment of time. And if you don't make that commitment up front, I promise you, you're not going to be around long term. The second thing that I thought of as to what separates all of the leaders from the brand new people is 100% commitment. 100% commitment is critical. But here's what I want to tell you, the new people. You have to make that commitment in advance. Because if you don't make that commitment in advance, I promise you there's going to be some times in your ACN careers where you're going to feel like you don't have what it takes to win. And you will take the path of least resistance if you don't make that full commitment up front. You got to make that commitment up front with relationships. You got to make that commitment up front in business. I'll give you an example personally. I mentioned Sherry to you. Sherry and I met in the 12th grade in Detroit public schools. We got married 3 years later. We've been married for 42 years. Do you think that every day was a good day? Do you think that every season was a good season for 42 years? No, I bet there were some times where she would just look at me waking up and say, "What in the world did I do?" But you know what? Before we ever got married, we made a commitment, and here was the commitment. Not only did we make vows on our wedding day, but before that we said, listen, if we go into this, there's no getting out barring us dying. And we made that commitment up front, and we made it in full. You got to do that with relationships. You also got to do it in business. See, when I first started my network marketing career, it was 1982. I'll never forget it. Growing up in the inner city of Detroit, not having any mentorship, not having any formal education. I had nothing going for me. I didn't know how to talk. I didn't know how to dress. I didn't have the right influences in my life. But somebody introduced me to direct selling. And here's what they told me. They said, listen, you can try this on a part-time basis. You don't have to have a resume. You don't have to have a college degree. And some of these people are doing really well financially. So I started. And I'm telling you, for the first 3 years of my network marketing career, I was the biggest disaster you ever saw in sales. I didn't know how to do anything. But I remember distinctly, I said to myself as a young man, I forget how old I was, and here's what I said to myself in the commitment that I made to myself. I said, I will never grow up and live as an adult the way that I grew up as a child. And I don't care what I had to do. I don't care what price I had to pay. If somebody gave me a chance, that I was going to figure it out. And so even though I was terrible for the first 3 years, because I made that commitment to myself up front, in full, in advance, I couldn't let it go. And so I plugged in and I figured it out, and I started recruiting and I started building and I started doing all the things that you're doing. And something great happened for me. Why? Because I made a commitment up front and in full and in advance. And I'm telling you, those of you that are brand new, I would recommend you do that very same thing, because there's going to be some days where you're going to feel like quitting. There's going to be some days where there are going to be people that are going to be around you that say, why are you going to another meeting? You've gone to 5 other meetings and this isn't happening yet. All those negative forces come against you. And I'm telling you, 100% commitment is critical. You can't just sit on the fence, folks. Sometimes the hardest place to sit is on a fence. You got to be all in. You got to put all the chips in and say, you know what? This is where I'm staying. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to make my mark. The next 5 years are going to be great. And this is the company I'm going to do it with. Can you make that commitment? Yes or no? Here's the third thing that separates you brand new people from all the leaders, is you must make a commitment to put out effort to build your company within a company and to pay the necessary price, to do the things that most people are not willing to do. What does the compensation plan tell you to do? You're going to learn all this in the next 2 days. The bottom line the compensation plan tells you to do is you must talk to people about becoming a customer or becoming a business partner. Can you do that? So you got to make a decision not just to be a part of ACN, but just to do something with it. I told you earlier that you're part of a very principled company. But being part of a principled company is nothing if you don't do anything with it. Principles without practice are powerless. You got to do something. You got to put one foot in front of the other. I know that there's a wealth of information out there on the internet. These YouTube shorts that you can click on and get little nuggets of information. And I love some of the information. It's some of the most valuable information that I've ever heard. But none of it matters to me if I don't do something with it. It's just information. You're going to get information over the next 2 days. But it doesn't matter unless you do something with it. You got to do something. Your vision must be combined with venture. That is the bottom line. You got to put one foot in front of the other, not just gather information and do the things that are necessary and just gather information for the sake of gathering. You must do something. So those are the 3 things that separate, whether from the leader to a brand new person. Now the 4th thing is on us. The first 3 things are for you. The 4th thing is on us, which is why we're here in Baltimore. The 4th thing is you need a track to run on. You need a system to follow. There's a difference between a high jumper and a pole vaulter in terms of how high they jump. A high jumper can jump 7 feet. A pole vaulter can jump 15 feet. Why? Because they have the leverage of the pole. That's the only difference. What I'm here to tell you today is the ACN culture, the ACN environment, the top leaders, your upline people, they are your pole to help you to leverage to where you want to go a lot faster than you can do it on your own. So these next 2 days, you're going to get world-class training from some of the top people in all of ACN, some of the executives of ACN that have started where every single one of you are now starting, and they've done it. They've worked hard, they paid a price, they've gathered information, they've implemented the information, and now they're some of the top leaders that you're going to see train you to give you those valuable nuggets of information to help you to collapse time frames and do great things for yourself and for your family. So you're going to get great training. The second thing is, over the next 2 days, is you're going to see wonderful validation of the ACN opportunity. See, all this is a bunch of bunk unless people are making money and people are getting promoted, yes? Right, we can talk about everything, but if it's not working, what does it matter? Over the next 2 days, you're going to see tremendous amounts of validation. You're going to see people getting recognized, people from all walks of life getting recognized at the ETL level, at the RC level, RD level, and beyond. You're going to see people getting promoted. You're going to see people getting promoted to the position of regional vice president, which is going to be a tremendous thing. You're going to see RD promotions, people parading across the stage. And I want you to be happy for them. Clap for them. Be joyous for them. But at the same time, I want you to ask, when is it my turn? And as you see them walk across the stage, I want you to picture yourselves getting your promotion at the next Elevate event, which is going to be in Orlando, Florida in October. When you see these people walk across the stage, you're going to see people that are in tears because the ACN opportunity has meant so much to them. And they're finally moving forward with doing some great things for themselves and for their families. And I just want you to picture yourselves doing the very same thing at the next event. Is that a deal? I'm about done. Listen, I know because of where we've come from, I know how bad some of you need ACN to work. I know some of you are here, and number one, you had no idea how you were going to make it here because you don't have the financial resources to do it, but somehow you made it happen. Some of you drove across the country to be here because you couldn't afford an airline ticket. I remember those days. I remember piling into a hotel room with 10 people fighting for a shower and using each other's towels and having a loaf of bread with peanut butter just to get through the weekend. But when you want it so bad, none of that stuff matters. Wouldn't you agree? When you're hungry, not physically hungry, but you're hungry to want to do something for yourselves and for your families, you'd be willing to do anything. And that's why some of you are here. And I want you to know that we don't take it lightly. We don't take it lightly, the price that you paid to be here. But here's my encouragement to you, is I know that you're all busy. You got a lot going on in your lives. Got family issues. Some of you got health issues. Some of you maybe got a bad report this week. There's nothing you can do about that right now other than pray. So my encouragement to you is this. You came here. You're in this environment. I would encourage you to stay focused on what we're going to give you over the next 2 days and just put on the back burner, if you could, all the things that are running through your head right now as I'm talking so that you can gather the information that will turn your lives around. Can you do that? But you need to stay intentional. Next 2 days, all day today, the rest of the day today, and then all day tomorrow. We're going to give you information on things that most of you have never experienced yet. How valuable would that be? If you know it in advance, and we can help you to navigate and circumvent around to condense time frames so that you can walk the stage and get your promotion, would it be worth you to stay focused? I would encourage you to listen intently. I would encourage you to take great notes. And most importantly, I'm going to encourage you to implement all the things that we're going to talk about over the next 2 days. Because listen, ACN doesn't work unless you're successful. Do you understand that? The only time that we grow is if we teach you how to grow. We can't make money unless you make money. Is that a deal? So we're going to give you everything we have over the next 2 days so that you can make your mark for yourself and for your family and do something spectacular. Is that fair enough? God bless all of you. Look forward to spending the weekend with you. Have a great day.